There are now more than 118,000 cases in 114 countries.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're exploring defining moments of the 21st century that people will remember for generations. Though the century actually began on January 1st, 2001, for this list, we're going to include 2000 moments because many people consider that year as part of the current century.
"I will let you all speak," he said. "Then we must decide what to do."
Number 50. Legalizing same-sex marriage. In June 2015, the United States experienced a landmark civil rights moment when the Supreme Court ruling in Obergefell v. Hodges legalized same-sex marriage nationwide.
President Obama even called the lead plaintiff, James Obergefell, to congratulate him.
Figured when I saw you that we were going to be hoping for some good news, and we did.
This wasn't just a decision that changed laws, it transformed lives. A prominent showing of supporters gathered outside the Supreme Court, waving rainbow flags with vigor as the ruling was announced, while millions watched live broadcasts around the world.
This is a wonderful day for equality. It's a great victory, and it's a victory for love.
What started in the U.S. set off a global ripple effect, which saw countries including Ireland, Germany, and Austria follow with their own historic legalizations. The 2015 ruling in favor of legalizing same-sex marriage now remains one of the most celebrated equality milestones of the century.
It's a great day, it's a great victory, and it was generations in waiting.
Number 49. Greece bankruptcy. A business going bankrupt is bad, but what happens when a country files for bankruptcy?
Greece must find the equivalent of $2.2 billion by the end of May to pay salaries and pensions.
In 2015, Greece found itself on the wrong page of history as it became the first developed nation ever to default on a payment to the International Monetary Fund, missing a €1.5 billion obligation. The world watched in silence as banks closed, ATMs ran dry, and anxious citizens lined the streets waiting to withdraw the limited cash available.
I'm very optimistic, and I trust our new Prime Minister. I do.
Greece's default sent shockwaves across Europe, threatening the stability of the Eurozone and raising fears of Brexit. In a moment that will live in infamy in Greek history, the 2015 bankruptcy halted the nation and had global implications.
Poverty, social unrest, people on the streets, and a lot of uncertainty.
Number 48. Kony 2012. In March 2012, a 30-minute online documentary aiming to expose the Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony unexpectedly became one of the most viral videos in internet history. Racking up over 100 million views in 6 days. The video was released by the nonprofit group Invisible Children and exposed accusations of Kony's mass abductions and forcing children into warfare.
Do you hear my words?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to stop them.
The social media response was immediate. Almost overnight, feeds were flooded with Kony 2012 posters, hashtags, and calls for global action. In a first for activism gone viral at a planetary scale, the Kony 2012 campaign drew criticism, but left an undeniable impact. It proved the loudest microphone was not a government or a newsroom anymore, but the internet itself.
The people of the world see each other and can protect each other. It's turning the system upside down, and it changes everything.
Number 47. The Lahaina Fire. The town of Lahaina stood as a one-time capital of Maui, a beautiful island of the Hawaiian Kingdom. In August 2023, that beauty was maimed in one of the deadliest instances of wildfires in modern history.
Both sides, to the left and the right, are on fire.
Fueled by powerful winds and drought conditions, flames tore through Lahaina with alarming speed, destroying thousands of buildings and tragically killing 102 people. By the time it was over, Lahaina was in ruins. Satellite images, eyewitness videos, and emergency broadcasts spread across social media, turning the disaster into a global moment of shared horror and heartbreak.
It's not just ash on your clothing when you take it off. It's our loved ones.
Beyond the immediate tragedy, the event sparked worldwide conversations about climate resilience, emergency preparedness, and the vulnerability of historic communities to extreme weather events in a changing world.
At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to join us in a moment of silence in acknowledgement of the fires and all that was lost.
Number 46, MH17 shot down. Just a few months after the tragedy of MH370, the world stood stunned on July 17, 2014, when Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 was shot down while flying over eastern Ukraine.
So we drove out here and found a sort of strange scene of smoke rising over this hillside.
The aircraft had been struck by a surface-to-air missile fired from territory held by pro-Russian separatists, worsening the already tense conflict in the region.
The warhead exploded on a location in space less than 1 cubic meter to the left of and above the cockpit.
The strike killed all 298 souls on board, leaving the world to deal with the geopolitical implications that immediately followed. Images of wreckage scattered across fields and the global list of victims, which spanned families, researchers, students, and travelers, made the incident a somber symbol of the human cost of political conflict.
When I'm in my bed at night, I see my son lying on the ground. I see Daisy, I see Bryce, I see them in my head. I see it.
Number 45, the Mumbai attacks. In 2008, the world witnessed one of the most coordinated terrorist attacks of the 21st century. 10 militants from the Pakistan-based extremist group Lashkar-e-Taiba targeted luxury hotels, a train station, a Jewish center, restaurants, and public streets.
They wanted anyone with British or American passports. So anyone who had a British or American passport, they wanted to know. So I guess they were after foreigners, yeah.
From November 26th to 29th, the world and citizens of Mumbai watched in horrified silence as live news coverage showed fires burning at the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel and hostages trapped inside. In what followed, 175 people were killed and hundreds were injured. The attack sparked international condemnation and transformed India's counter-terrorism strategy.
Police chief said at least 3 gunmen were still thought to be at large inside the hotel. As they retreated, they began setting fire to various parts of the building.
The Mumbai attacks set the stage for increased global cooperation in intelligence sharing and counter-extremism prevention. To this day, the siege of the Taj remains one of the defining security wake-up calls of the century.
Lashkar-e-Taiba was no longer in the shadows.
Number 44, the Amazon burns. The 2019 wildfire season saw the world's largest forest take a hit. Satellite images showed alarming scenes of fires scorching vast areas of the Amazon rainforest, the most in over a decade.
It's not a natural accident.
Roughly 80,000 fires burned that year, covering an area roughly the size of New Jersey. The shock factor wasn't the flames themselves, though. Rather, it was the realization of deforestation and climate pressures that were actively playing out in real time. As smoke blanketed cities in Brazil and darkened skies thousands of miles away, world leaders expressed urgent concern.
Brazil's president, Jair Bolsonaro, is sending the army to help battle the flames, but only after facing pressure from critics of his policies, which have relaxed environmental laws while promoting economic expansion in the forest.
The Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth, suddenly seemed frighteningly vulnerable. The event became a rallying cry for global conservation movements, environmental accountability, and deeper climate action.
In the Amazon, small patches of green, protected by local tribes, are all that remain of a once great forest.
Number 43, Obama is elected. History was genuinely made when Barack Obama won the U.S. presidential election on November 4th, 2008.
It is very, very loud here, Katie. The crowd just erupted.
With this victory, he became the first African American to hold the office. Crowds filled the streets from Chicago's Grant Park to cities across the world as people celebrated what many saw as a milestone for representation and progress. Obama's victory speech became one of the most replayed political moments of the century.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible.
Beyond its historic symbolism, this particular election marked a major shift in U.S. foreign policy, economic recovery efforts following the financial crisis, and digital-era campaigning. While Obama's presidential term has its share of critics, his journey to the White House remains one of the most iconic political moments of the century so far.
And where we are met with cynicism and doubt, and those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. Thank you. God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America.
Number 42, the Grenfell Tower fire. When you cover a building with a highly flammable exterior cladding, it is a disaster waiting to happen. And it happened on June 14, 2017, when a fire that began in a fourth-floor refrigerator rapidly engulfed Grenfell Tower in West London.
While the fire was spreading upwards, it was also spreading horizontally at a tremendous rate.
The blaze spread with unprecedented speed, and by morning, the building was a charred skeleton, and 72 lives were lost. The horrifying aspect of the disaster was watching it unfold in real time. Investigations later revealed major failures in building regulations, safety oversight, and emergency preparedness.
Tests showed the cladding materials didn't comply with the recommended fire performance for a building of that height.
The tower fire led to a sweeping national review of building safety in the UK and sparked global discussions on housing inequality, high-rise construction standards, and government accountability in a tragedy that could have been fully preventable.
Enough is enough. I've got friends in that tower. I have a right to be angry. I've got friends in there.
Yeah.
Because of people saving money, people are dying.
Number 41, the sinking of the Kursk. Much like the unsinkable Titanic, the Russians also had their unsinkable naval vessel whose story ended in tragedy. In August 2000, the Russian submarine Kursk suffered a catastrophic explosion during a naval exercise in the Barents Sea.
It's now 11 a.m. The commander gives the order to prepare torpedo tube number 4 for launch.
A faulty torpedo triggered a deadly chain reaction. The resulting detonation of the arsenal on board sank the vessel rapidly. All 118 crew members perished. 4 days, the world watched as conflicting reports emerged and rescue attempts fell short. Public frustration grew, fueled by delayed government responses and limited transparency.
Western military analysts had been suggesting earlier on in the day that if no breakthrough came within 48 hours, that the crew would be in a very grave situation indeed.
The tragedy of the Kursk exposed systemic issues in the Russian Navy, from aging equipment to procedural failures, in a landmark moment in post-Soviet Russia's relationship with its military, media, and global image.
The Kursk disaster is often seen as a metaphor for the decay of the Soviet Union, but I see the bravery of the Russian crew really as a sign of hope for Russia and the future.
Number 40, the invasion of Iraq. Here is a war that marked a dramatic escalation of the post-9/11 geopolitical landscape. On March 20th, 2003, a coalition led by the United States launched the invasion of Iraq, with the purpose of eliminating weapons of mass destruction and removing Saddam Hussein from power.
More than 35 countries are giving crucial support, from the use of naval and air bases to help with intelligence and logistics.
The world watched live broadcasts of airstrikes over Baghdad, creating one of the most heavily televised beginnings to a war in modern history. While the initial military phase was swift, the long-term consequences of the war were far-reaching and led to years of regional instability, humanitarian crises, and conflict.
A kind of a diabolical attempt by al-Qaeda to stimulate a civil war and to create a conflict between the Shiites and the Sunnis, to making Iraq essentially ungovernable and chaotic and an entity that the Americans can no longer control.
Memories of the Iraq invasion are alive even today, sparking continuous protests, political controversy, and reevaluation of foreign policy across multiple nations.
The Iraqis are probably wondering how in the hell are they supposed to believe in a system that we force-fed them when our system doesn't even work.
Number 39, the death of Robin Williams. Sometimes those who smile are struggling the most. This rang true when news broke on August 11, 2014, that beloved comedian Robin Williams had died. The world paused in collective shock.
We got some news during the show that Robin Williams has passed away.
Known for his lightning-speed humor and heartfelt performances, Williams had been a global cultural fixture for decades.
People call these things imperfections, but they're not. Oh, that's the good stuff. And then we get to choose who we let into our weird little worlds.
His passing sparked immediate conversations about mental health, grief, and the under-recognized challenges of neurological disorders. It was later revealed that Williams struggled with Lewy body dementia. This further deepened the tragedy of his passing. Fans gathered at his Hollywood Walk of Fame star, tributes poured in from celebrities and world leaders, and social media filled with iconic clips from his films. Few celebrity deaths this century have reverberated as widely or as emotionally as this one.
All right, then. All right, happy Thanksgiving. Robin Williams, everybody.
Number 38, the Arab Spring. One of the most transformative political movements of the century, the Arab Spring was sparked by the self-immolation of a Tunisian street vendor protesting corruption.
A region was gripped with freedom fever.
What began as a tremor in late 2010 exploded across 2011 with demonstrations in Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Syria, and beyond. Images of hundreds of thousands gathering in Cairo's Tahrir Square became symbolic of the era.
Did you ever imagine that this would be happening in Egypt?
Never. 1 month ago, I would never imagine.
Global news outlets broadcast the revolutions in real time, and what followed in the fall of long-standing regimes. Millions demanded reform, and while outcomes varied dramatically from country to country, the Arab Spring was a turning point in digital age activism and reshaped the political landscape of the Middle East and North Africa.
I don't think we should stop being optimistic. There's certainly so much to do.
Number 37, the Global Climate Change Agreement. Earth Day 2016 marked one of the most ambitious environmental commitments ever made. World leaders gathered at the United Nations to sign the Paris Agreement. The agreement was designed to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius.
As a reminder of what's at stake, the room filled with faces of the next generation.
We expect more than words on paper and promises. We expect action. And they expect action today, not tomorrow.
The treaty emphasized emissions reduction, financial support for developing nations, and long-term climate resilience. The image of countries signing together became instantly iconic. This was, for many, an instance that symbolized unprecedented global unity on an urgent issue.
So this gives us the best possible shot to save the one planet we've got.
Debates continue to rage to this day regarding implementation of the treaty, but the agreement fundamentally reshaped global climate policy and remains a central point of reference in environmental discussions.
Now is the time for bold, unprecedented action.
Number 36. The Brexit referendum. On June 23, 2016, headlines across the world captured the moment the Leave vote pulled ahead. The United Kingdom had voted to leave the European Union.
The total number of votes cast in favour of Leave was 17,410,742.
Analysts, leaders, and even many voters were stunned by the result. Within hours, markets plunged, the pound fell to its lowest level in decades, and political resignations followed.
This is not a decision I've taken lightly.
The Brexit referendum reshaped global alliances and initiated one of the most complicated political processes in modern European history. For the global audience, the breakup symbolized rising populism, shifting identities, and growing skepticism toward long-standing institutions. Brexit didn't just change Europe, it changed global politics.
The government lied to us. In fairness to you, they did lie to us. They never told us the truth.
Number 35, the MeToo movement begins. In October 2017, following investigative reports detailing allegations against film producer Harvey Weinstein, a simple phrase on Twitter exploded across social media. #MeToo. Millions of people worldwide began to share their stories of harassment and abuse.
What does the volume of support mean to somebody who's gone through this?
It means a lot. It's a little emotional. It's emotional to see so many other people.
It was a global-scale reckoning on behavior long hidden or ignored. The MeToo movement reshaped workplace policies, toppled powerful figures, and sparked legal and cultural conversations that remain influential to this day.
It opened a door. Many individuals here were never confident or comfortable speaking up before, and now there are so many people to support us.
From Hollywood sets to political offices and everyday workplaces, MeToo became a symbol for accountability and respect. One of the most widespread social justice movements in the digital era, MeToo proved that a single hashtag could become a catalyst for real-world change.
Possibility is a gift, y'all. It births new worlds, and it births visions.
Number 34, overturning Roe v. Wade. Another Supreme Court ruling that resulted in a transformative overhaul of laws occurred on June 24, 2022. The U.S. Supreme Court released its decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, overturning Roe v. Wade after nearly 50 years.
The court voted 5-4 to overturn Roe.
The ruling triggered state-level bans on abortion and prompted nationwide demonstrations. News outlets broadcast reactions from coast to coast, and global governments weighed in on the significance of the legal shift.
Well, it's important to remember that since the mid-1990s, over 40 countries have liberalized their abortion laws, and the United States is amongst a handful of countries that have actually gone backwards.
Political stance did not matter at this point. The magnitude of the moment couldn't be denied, with the ruling marking one of the most consequential judicial decisions in modern U.S. history. Years down the road, there are still ongoing debates about the future of public policy on a very sensitive constitutional right. Number 33, the death of Pope John Paul II. The Pope is considered the vicar of Christ on earth by the Catholic Church, so it was by no means a surprise that the death of Pope John Paul II at the age of 84, ending a nearly 27-year papacy, was met with one of the largest global mourning events ever recorded.
But we have confirmed independently that John Paul II is dead.
More than 4 million pilgrims traveled to Rome, and an estimated 2 billion viewers tuned in to watch his funeral. Streets overflowed with mourners and tributes.
The world has lost a champion of human freedom.
Leaders from across the world gathered at the Vatican to honor a figure credited with helping end the Cold War and shaping modern Catholicism. Few global figures have commanded such profound international attention at their passing.
Vi faccio una benedizione. Siete bravi, siete buoni. Mi piace essere con voi.
Number 32, Fukushima. The 2011 earthquake off the coast of Japan not only triggered a devastating tsunami, it also led to one of the worst nuclear disasters in history.
When I heard the diesel generators were lost, I couldn't square that with reality.
Floodwaters overwhelmed the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, disabling cooling systems and leading to the meltdown of 3 of its reactors. Explosions rocked the facility as the world watched in horror. Hundreds of thousands of citizens were evacuated, and radiation concerns spread globally.
We were taking radiation measurements ourselves to see, after the drop, did the radiation level go down? And it didn't.
The disaster prompted massive reevaluations of nuclear energy safety, emergency and infrastructure planning, and environmental resilience. Fukushima was a narrow miss to Chernobyl in what remains a defining example of how natural disasters and human vulnerabilities can intersect with catastrophic consequences.
I've been wondering why this happened. One day, we will return here to live.
Number 31, Y2K. The millennium evoked both apprehension and joyous anticipation. As New Year's Eve 1999 approached, the entire world faced a once-in-history moment.
They're making too much out of it. It's not going to be anything. Just another day. Of course, I may be wrong.
Behind the glorious fireworks, a global fear persisted. What would happen at the stroke of midnight if Y2K computer glitches shut down banks, planes, hospitals, and power grids?
I was worried because the whole computer game was new to us, and I was a little ignorant.
Billions watched simultaneously as cities from Sydney to Paris to New York counted down. When the clock rolled over, systems largely stayed intact. The entire planet sighed in relief. The Y2K moment became a testament to international coordination, massive technical preparation, and the shared human excitement of welcoming the year 2000. For many, it wasn't just a date change, but the world's first globally synchronized digital age event.
We changed 70 million lines of code in our computer systems.
Number 30, the financial crisis of 2008.
The signs were everywhere, but now it's official. We are in a recession. The research group that makes that determination made it today and said the recession actually started a year ago. But the question now, when will it end?
The late 2000s saw one of the worst economic downturns since the Great Depression, and it certainly put the world on high alert. It was mostly triggered by the collapse of the U.S. housing market, with most of the blame centered on fancy-sounding things like subprime mortgages and collateralized debt obligations. The point is, the housing market crashed, and when that happened, so too did the entire economy. Trillions of dollars were wiped from the stock market, millions lost their homes and jobs in the resulting recession, and countries worldwide suffered from slowed economic growth, debt, and bank failures. Not a great way to enter the 2010s, that's for sure.
A's, 0. B's, 0. Double B's, 0. Triple B's, 0. And then that happens.
What is that?
That's America's housing market.
Number 29, the 2011 Norway attacks.
A grisly chronology is emerging from Norway after what appears to have been an elaborate and meticulously planned mass killing.
Known as 22/7 in its native Norway, these attacks occurred on July 22, 2011, resulting in 77 deaths and well over 300 injuries. They were conducted by a far-right extremist named Anders Breivik, who was motivated primarily by race and immigration. At 3:25 p.m., Breivik detonated a car bomb near the offices of the Norwegian Prime Minister, killing 8 people. About 2 hours later, Breivik, disguised as a police officer, traveled to Utøya Island, where the Labour Party's youth camp was being held. He opened fire on campers and staff, systematically executing 69 others. The attacks shocked Norway, a country known for its peaceful and open society, and Breivik was given 21 years in prison with the potential for indefinite extensions.
The gunman was dressed as a policeman, he says. He tried to show us that he was here to help. He tried to lure us, said, "Come here." People started jumping through the windows and ran everywhere in all directions. Most ran toward the water and tried to hide.
Number 28, campfire.
1 year ago, a spark at the wrong place at an even worse time turned into a firestorm of historic proportions.
The deadliest and most destructive fire in California's history began on November 8, 2018, the result of faulty electrical lines owned by Pacific Gas and Electric. The fire spread and raged throughout the next 2 weeks, ravaging over 150,000 acres of land and destroying nearly 19,000 structures, including homes and businesses. Over 52,000 people were forced to evacuate, 85 were killed, and over $16 billion in damage was wrought. In fact, the small town of Paradise was almost entirely destroyed, and many residents were fatally caught in traffic jams as they attempted to flee the area. California strengthened its wildfire prevention efforts as a result, and PG&E admitted fault, resulting in a $13 billion payout to victims and ultimately bankruptcy.
They were grandfathers, grandmothers, fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters. Most who died were found inside their homes. Many never got that message to leave. With 85 victims, there are so many families grieving the loss of their loved one tonight.
Number 27, the Notre-Dame fire.
Good evening. It is one of the most famous buildings in the world. It has stood on the banks of the River Seine for more than 800 years. Tonight, Notre-Dame Cathedral in Paris is completely engulfed by fire.
This French Gothic masterpiece was completed back in the 14th century and is arguably the most famous cathedral in the world. But on April 15, 2019, an enormous fire broke out in the church's roof as it was undergoing reconstruction. Whether from a lit cigarette or an electrical short circuit, the fire ravaged the cathedral's roof and destroyed its 850-year-old wooden spire, which collapsed in cinematic fashion. Firefighters battled the flames for over 12 hours and managed to save the cathedral's main structure, although 3 were injured in the process. This tragedy transcended Paris, and donations totaling 840 million euros poured in from around the world. It completely reopened in December 2024, nearly 6 years after its ruin.
And those who have played their part in looking after the building, the firemen and women, the firefighters who have played their part in protecting the building, and those who revived it also are gathered here with thank you from the people of France.
Number 26, the killing of George Floyd.
The situation here in Santa Monica, California is very fluid.
What the New York Times dubbed the largest protests since the civil rights era were sparked on May 25, 2020, when Minneapolis man George Floyd was killed during a routine arrest. Officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for nearly 10 full minutes while Floyd repeatedly claimed he couldn't breathe. Chauvin ignored his pleas and the pleas of watching bystanders, and Floyd eventually lost consciousness and died. The unlawful death resulted in widespread protests and property destruction as people sought to express their disapproval of police brutality and the use of excessive force. The protests even spread to over 60 countries around the world, and Chauvin was eventually sentenced to 22 years in prison.
Thousands of people around the world have gathered to protest the death of George Floyd, including here in Berlin, the German capital, where artists spray-painted this mural.
Number 25, the 2010 Haiti earthquake.
It has been 15 years since a 7.0 magnitude earthquake shook Haiti, killing hundreds of thousands of people. Another 300,000 suffered injuries. In some cases, many Haitians are still grappling with rebuilding as gang violence rises in the island nation.
At 4:53 p.m. local time, an enormous earthquake struck 16 miles off Haiti's capital city of Port-au-Prince. Measuring a magnitude 7.0, the earthquake caused catastrophic damage and was followed by dozens of aftershocks throughout the following days. When the shocks finally subsided in late January, hundreds of thousands were dead and more than 1 million residents were displaced. Their homes vanished in the rubble. The earthquake also completely decimated the area's most renowned buildings, including the Port-au-Prince Cathedral and the Presidential Palace. And, to make matters even worse, a cholera outbreak spread in the chaotic aftermath, further worsening the crisis. It was, without a doubt, one of the worst natural disasters of the century.
The pictures I've seen from Haiti, there really not much appears to have changed.
Number 24, the Boston Marathon bombing. At 2:49 p.m. on April 15, 2013, 2 homemade bombs exploded near the finish line of the Boston Marathon, the resulting white clouds billowing into the sky. The bombs were made from pressure cookers filled with shrapnel, and this shrapnel ripped through the crowds at immense speed, killing 3 and injuring nearly 300. The response, both national and international, was swift, not to mention angry. A massive manhunt ensued throughout the greater Boston area in the following days, and the phrase Boston Strong became an international symbol of resilience and unity. One perp, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, died in a shootout with the police, and his brother, Dzhokhar, was arrested and sentenced to death.
Come on out! Come on, Dzhokhar, let's go!
Number 23, the Trump assassination attempt.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said.
The 2024 presidential election nearly went a very different way on the evening of July 13th. Donald Trump was speaking near Butler, Pennsylvania when Thomas Crooks took multiple shots at him from a nearby roof. He struck Trump in his right ear and hit 3 others in the crowd, one of whom, a man named Corey Comprador, passed away. Naturally, the story became international news and sparked a wide variety of responses. But what most people could agree on is that it was a monumental failure in security. The Secret Service was widely criticized by both sides of the political spectrum, and Director Kimberly Cheadle stepped down in the wake of the controversy.
It was a tough day for her. She wasn't able to answer a lot, and after the end of the day, there were multiple calls for her to resign.
Number 22, Sandy Hook.
People have been gathering here for prayer, to lean on each other and lean on a belief in something bigger than themselves, to help get through what is just impossible to believe here or anywhere else.
The world was left utterly shocked on December 14, 2012, when news of the Sandy Hook shooting broke. On the morning of that fateful day, gunman Adam Lanza entered Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut and committed the worst mass shooting in the state's history, killing 26 and injuring 2 others. Investigators later found that Lanza had murdered his mother earlier that morning, and the shooter took his own life following the macabre events, bringing the total death toll to 28. The shooting shocked the country and reignited national debates on gun control, mental health, and school safety. And the tragedy later fueled harmful conspiracy theories that spread throughout the internet.
You can never be prepared for this kind of incident. What has happened, what has transpired at that school building will leave a mark on this community and every family impacted.
Number 21, the 2011 Japanese tsunami and meltdown.
This is after a major earthquake hitting Japan Friday afternoon. Japan's meteorological agency saying the quake measured 7.9. Live coverage of Miyagi Prefecture Sendai area where a tsunami is engulfing the area.
Sometimes with a natural disaster, it's just one thing after another. Such is the case with the 2011 Tohoku earthquake. This earthquake occurred about 45 miles east of the Oshika Peninsula and lasted approximately 6 minutes. It also triggered a gigantic tsunami, the 130-foot waves crashing into numerous coastal cities and virtually wiping them out. Nearly 20,000 people were killed, and countless more were either injured or displaced. As we saw earlier, the tsunami also caused a nuclear meltdown at the Fukushima power plant, which was deemed the worst of its kind since Chernobyl. Radioactive material was released into the environment, displacing a further 160,000 people. To date, it is the costliest natural disaster in history, causing well over $300 billion in damages.
12 years after the historic meltdowns, what was the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant remains a complex, highly hazardous, toxic waste site.
Number 20, the death of Queen Elizabeth.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
For many years, we watched history unfold before our very eyes. Elizabeth II, who ascended to the throne in 1952, held the title of longest reigning British monarch until her passing on September 8, 2022. Having ruled for 70 years and 214 days, Elizabeth surpassed Queen Victoria, who reigned for 63 years and 216 days. Elizabeth's passing in 2022 became one of the most significant events of the modern era.
We just saw all the crowds, and I said to my husband, I think the Queen's died.
The news of her death was understandably huge, given her historic pedigree. As such, an estimated 26.5 million people tuned in to watch her state funeral in the UK, making it the country's second most watched broadcast of the 21st century.
In the distance, the final procession began.
Number 19, the Titan submersible.
And for a very similar tragedy where warnings went unheeded to take place at the same exact site, with all the diving that's going on all around the world, I think it's just astonishing. It's really quite surreal.
For a couple of days in June 2023, the world could think of nothing else but the Titan submersible. Having launched on June 18th, the tiny boat was descending to the wreck of the Titanic when it lost contact with its mothership. Over the next 4 days, the world watched with increasing curiosity, wondering what had happened to the vehicle.
First thing I said, I won't repeat it, but, what the hell are they doing? Is that how they're going to get that out to the Titanic site?
The event was widely discussed on social media as millions were fascinated by the various elements of the wild story. Some expressed concern, while others joked about the shoddy construction of the submarine. Whatever the case, interest was widespread and enormous until we finally learned that the craft had suffered a catastrophic hull breach and imploded.
I like to tell people this is not your grandfather's submarine. It's got one button, and that's it.
Number 18, the Black Saturday bushfires.
It's very hard to stand on the Oval and realise the entire town was going up. It was just impossible to think about.
The former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard, called Black Saturday, quote, one of the darkest days in the country's peacetime history. And she's not exaggerating. While these fires are named after one particular day, they actually spanned several weeks between February and March of 2009, stemming from a variety of factors, including lightning and arson.
I thought it was out when I threw it out the paper shade out the window.
The fires ravaged the state of Victoria, destroying over 3,000 buildings and claiming 173 lives. Black Saturday itself refers to February 7th, when over 400 individual fires were observed throughout the state. The international reaction was swift, with many countries providing both physical and financial assistance.
Can you communicate to the rest of Australia what your personal thoughts and feelings were when you visited those areas?
Not really.
Number 17, the Manchester Arena attack.
Initially, I went right home. I went to Florida, and I was like, I was like, I'm not putting those costumes on again. I can't sing those songs again.
On May 22, 2017, pop star Ariana Grande held a concert at Manchester Arena, drawing thousands to the building. Shortly after the concert ended at 10:31 p.m., a terrorist attack occurred in the arena's foyer, killing 22 innocent people and injuring over 1,000 others.
The investigation continues. Emergency services still working the scene as day breaks on this somber city.
The bombing attracted widespread attention, with then Prime Minister Theresa May immediately forming the Commission for Countering Extremism. A good chunk of the international reaction came via Grande's involvement. Her sympathy response briefly became the most liked tweet in the site's history. Just 2 weeks after the tragedy, Grande organized the benefit concert One Love Manchester, which was attended by over 50,000 people and raised more than £17 million for the victims and their families. Number 16, the death of Michael Jackson.
Both the Los Angeles Times and CBS News are both now reporting that Michael Jackson has died.
The death of Michael Jackson was not just like any other celebrity passing. It was a truly momentous event. Despite the controversy that followed him late in life, the King of Pop was widely mourned when he died of a drug overdose on June 25, 2009. Various factors went into the widespread grief, including Jackson's enormous popularity, the sudden nature of his death, and his relatively young age of 50.
Then the children left their own floral tributes. They'd reportedly written notes to him which had been placed inside the coffin.
His passing caused a huge upswing in album sales, making him the highest-selling artist of 2009, with over 35 million copies sold. Jackson was so popular that his memorial service, which was held at LA's Staples Center, was streamed by an estimated 3 billion people, just under half the entire world.
Sure, there were some sad times and maybe some questionable decisions on his part, but Michael Jackson accomplished everything he dreamed of.
Number 15, the Beirut explosion.
In video from the scene, you can see small explosions, small lights flickering in the main plume of smoke, and then a massive shockwave.
2020 was a big news year. On August 4th, the world briefly set aside the COVID pandemic to focus on Lebanon, which suffered a catastrophic explosion when stores of ammonium nitrate blew in the port of Beirut. The blast was enormous, physically shaking the entire country and even being heard as far away as Cyprus.
But how exactly did the ammonium nitrate explode? The cause of the fire that triggered the explosion is still unclear, but the images of its early stages show smoke coming from the warehouse.
In fact, it was one of the most powerful non-nuclear explosions in world history, and it caused Prime Minister Hassan Diab to resign his position. Landmarks across the world were lit in support of Lebanon, and some countries removed their own stores of ammonium nitrate to prevent a similar disaster. It was also a huge deal on social media, with many people spreading shocking footage of the explosion.
At some level, I can almost see the appeal of keeping the place as a monument. There is something peaceful about it.
Number 14, the Las Vegas shooting.
All I can remember now, actually, are the popping sounds of the rifle rounds or whatnot.
On October 1st, 2017, America suffered its deadliest mass shooting by a single gunman, exacerbating an already bad weapons crisis in the country. A shooter took aim at those attending the Route 91 Harvest Festival on the Las Vegas Strip, attacking from the nearby Mandalay Bay Hotel. His shots killed 60 and injured over 400, with additional casualties incurred amid the ensuing chaos.
Police officers step in as paramedics.
You see officers stopping to render aid. You see officers bleeding from bullet wounds.
In response, U.S. lawmakers banned the sale of bump stocks, which allowed the shooter's weapons to fire at a faster rate. Misinformation and conspiracy theories spread widely on social media, and the Mandalay Bay closed access to the shooter's area. Additionally, the Vegas Golden Knights retired the number 58 to honor the immediate victims of the attack.
It's a constant reminder, you know. I'm never forgetting what happened that day.
Number 13, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
We are all puzzled by this mystery, and we want to bring it to a close. We would dearly love for another search to be undertaken.
Just like the Titan submersible, the world was left in the throes of speculation when Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappeared on March 8, 2014. The plane was carrying 239 people when it veered off course and vanished from radar screens. The nature of the story, a gigantic airplane vanishing without a trace, caused a huge international reaction.
Initially, when the airplane made a turn without talking to air traffic control, in my mind, all bets were off.
With reported sightings, wild conspiracy theories, and expert analysis coming in at equal measures. Adding to the mystery was the Malaysian government, whose reaction was weirdly befuddling and inaccurate. The disappearance led to the most expensive search in aviation history, which sadly has been unable to locate the aircraft.
The aircraft was still flying, as we know now. That just is so painful to think about, that 4 hours later, no one's looking yet.
Number 12, the death of Nelson Mandela.
There's Mr. Mandela, Mr. Nelson Mandela, a free man taking his first steps into a new South Africa.
Heralded as an icon of civil rights, social justice, and democracy, Nelson Mandela actively fought against apartheid, the system of racial segregation that plagued South Africa from the late 40s to the early 90s. Mandela helped end the controversial system, fostered and encouraged racial equality, and became the first president of South Africa in 1994.
Today, the majority of South Africans, black and white, recognize that apartheid has no future.
His initial hospitalization in 2011 attracted widespread media attention, and he died at the age of 95 on December 5, 2013. Most news outlets were devoted to covering his death and legacy, and many foreign representatives traveled to South Africa to attend his memorial service at Johannesburg's FNB Stadium.
The founding president
of our democratic nation has departed.
Number 11, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Also known as the BP oil spill, this unfortunately wasn't the first industrial disaster to devastate our marine habitats, but it remains the largest on record. It began on April 20th due to an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon oil platform.
And there's 30,000 of these workers every day that go in the Gulf to do this work, and they're well trained, but and they work to try to not have these accidents. But on this day, something went wrong. And now we're working with BP and we're Transocean to try to find the cause.
The fallout from this disaster resulted in 205 million gallons of oil discharged into the Gulf of Mexico, and effects were still being felt years after the initial disaster.
Birds are still on these islands coming in here feeding. So you can just imagine the contamination that takes place within the wildlife.
In fact, reports from 2012 stated that the oil refineries from Deepwater Horizon were still leaking, despite an official statement from 2010 that claimed the well was sealed. Number 10, the Israel-Hamas war. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been ongoing for 3/4 of a century, with the 2023 Israel-Hamas war adding another tragic and bloody chapter.
It's the responsibility of the army for the intelligence. It's our responsibility to guard the people of Israel. We failed on Saturday. This is our responsibility, but now we're fighting.
This latest conflict began when the Palestinian political and militant group Hamas launched a surprise attack on the 7th of October 2023, killing around 1,200 Israelis, mostly civilians. They also took 250 Israelis hostage, demanding the release of Palestinian prisoners.
This is a massive terrorist attack that is gunning down Israeli civilians in their towns.
In retaliation, Israel dropped 6,000 bombs on Gaza over 6 days and launched a ground invasion. There have been widespread global protests, and Gaza has collapsed into a humanitarian crisis. Number 9, 7/7. On July 7, 2005, the UK experienced its worst terrorist attack in 17 years when 4 extremists carried out a horrible mission in downtown London. 3 of the attackers detonated bombs in the city's underground, and a 4th attacked a double-decker bus in Bloomsbury's Tavistock Square. The attacks killed 52 residents and injured over 700. The media response was swift and lengthy, with many broadcasters devoting uninterrupted coverage of the attack.
It is through terrorism that the people that have committed this terrible act express their values. And it's right at this moment that we demonstrate ours.
The BBC website was also inundated with traffic, and it recorded its highest bandwidth ever that afternoon. The bombing was later recognized at the 2012 London Olympics, when a minute of silence was respectfully observed by international delegates during the opening ceremony. Number 8, the Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami.
10 years on, ceremonies will be held across the region to remember all those who died on that day.
On December 26, 2004, the most powerful earthquake of the 21st century to date struck off the west coast of northern Sumatra, Indonesia. The earthquake and resulting tsunami left over 227,000 people dead.
I go over the roofs and over the edge and with the fence, tall fence, and then to the trees. It's just happened just like that.
Particularly hard hit were Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand. The disaster prompted an international humanitarian response, with the World Food Program donating provisions and various countries providing $14 billion in aid. Various fundraising events were also held across the globe, including the World Cricket Tsunami Appeal, the charity concert Tsunami Relief Cardiff, and FIFA's Football for Hope.
These are some of the 140,000 homes built by the international community since the tsunami.
Number 7, the 2021 United States Capitol attack. On January 6, 2021, scenes of carnage in the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C., shocked Americans watching the riot unfold on TV. USA! USA! At a rally before the attack, outgoing President Donald Trump told supporters the election had been stolen and urged them to march to the Capitol building. Debunked by courts, state audits, and federal agencies, this claim was part of a campaign to overturn the election results and reinstall Trump as president.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people.
Within hours, 2,000 angry Trump supporters broke into the Capitol building. assaulting police and searching for lawmakers gathered to formalize Joe Biden's victory. Among them were members of far-right militias and neo-fascist groups, some of them armed. The insurrection failed, with lawmakers racing to safety before the mob reached them. Number 6. The death of Osama Bin Laden. In the wake of the September 11th attacks in 2001, U.S. President George W. Bush announced the beginning of a war on terror. The first stage of this war was the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan to hunt down Osama bin Laden and his terrorist group, Al-Qaeda.
In this conflict, America faces an enemy who has no regard for conventions of war or rules of morality.
This manhunt continued for almost a decade as bin Laden evaded capture. However, in 2011, the CIA tracked him down to a compound in Pakistan. In a helicopter raid codenamed Operation Neptune Spear on May 2nd, bin Laden was killed.
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
For those who vividly recalled the events of 9/11, President Obama's announcement that the Al-Qaeda leader was dead was a landmark event. Number 5. The November 2015 Paris attacks. In January 2015, France was left reeling from an Islamic terrorist attack on satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, in which 12 staff were killed.
In a video, Al-Qaeda in Yemen claimed it targeted the magazine for insulting the Prophet Muhammad.
Several other smaller attacks occurred throughout the year. On November 13th, these culminated in by far the deadliest. That night, in a series of coordinated attacks, terrorists detonated explosive vests and opened fire in streets and public venues in Paris.
Only minutes later, gunmen opened fire on several bars and restaurants in eastern Paris.
3 gunmen stormed a concert at the Bataclan Theater, killing 90 people. In all, 130 lives were taken. The attacks sent shockwaves not only through France, but also reverberated around the world. Number 4. Russia's invasion of Ukraine. For months, the buildup of Russian forces along Ukraine's border had the world on edge. Would Russian President Vladimir Putin really give the order to invade? In 2014, Ukrainians had revolted against a pro-Moscow government, sick of corruption and abuse of power. Their success led Russia to annex Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. In February 2022, Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, furious at the country's aspiration to join NATO.
I consider it necessary to immediately recognize the independence and sovereignty of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics.
In response, the international community hit Russia with severe economic sanctions. Around the world, everyone's eyes have been glued to their screens, watching the outgunned Ukrainians hold off the invading forces.
If we don't stand up, we don't have a country to defend.
Number 3. Hurricane Katrina. This Category 5 hurricane was devastating not only due to its intensity, but also a failure of flood control systems and slow government response. On August 29, 2005, the hurricane made landfall in Louisiana.
It was quickly predicted to become a catastrophic event.
My fear is absolutely that the models are correct.
It is gaining strength again. It is now stalking the Gulf Coast.
It rapidly doubled in size and intensified into a Category 5 hurricane.
The storm surge breached New Orleans levees and flooded the city. Tens of thousands of residents had not evacuated. It didn't matter if you were from there. TV and radio audiences could feel the distress and panic in the air. Critics argued that race and class were factors in the slow local and federal response.
This story ends up being the roadmap, the instruction booklet, the how-to story of dealing with disaster. It also tells you what not to do.
The hurricane left an estimated 1,392 dead in its wake, making it one of the deadliest in U.S. history. Number 2, 9/11. Just about everyone who's old enough to remember it can tell you where they were when they heard about the September 11th attacks in 2001.
And we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows.
For New York, it was morning when 2 hijacked passenger jets crashed into and ultimately demolished the Twin Towers as part of a coordinated attack.
Well, I just was in the lobby trying to get a cup of coffee, heard the bang, and now I'm just going around the corner to see if my friends are all right. I can't talk.
Another plane hit the Pentagon. After news of a fourth crash came to light that day, it became apparent that the passengers of United Airlines Flight 93 took back their flight and downed the weaponized aircraft before it reached Washington, D.C.
You could hear him yelling, "In the cockpit, the cockpit."
The event claimed close to 3,000 lives, and the world was forever changed.
The other trade center's down. It's down. It's down.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The COVID-19 pandemic. On March 12, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that the COVID-19 outbreak had become a pandemic.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
At the time, few of us fully understood what it would mean for our lives in the years to come. Nonetheless, the news had people worldwide glued to their screens or running to stock up on groceries, especially toilet paper.
To ensure compliance with the government's instruction to stay at home, we will immediately close all shops selling non-essential goods.
Through lockdowns, the world watched as the virus continued to dominate headlines, and the death toll skyrocketed from the hundreds into the thousands and then millions. The WHO's announcement was the beginning of a long, rocky road for all of us.
Boosters are important, but the most important thing we need to do is get more people vaccinated.
Do you remember where you were when these events transpired? Let us know in the comments below.
No matter how many times you see it, it is still just as terrifying.